Well, look, we were a great team and we had a terrific run together and a lot of success, and we broke new ground. We were quite compatible. I wanted to do new and interesting things, and he's particularly interested in new and interesting and smart things. And he's a risk taker in ways that were appealing to me. And two, I had a skill set that was complementary to his own. And so we never stepped on each other's toes. And he absolutely has skills that, from a product perspective, that I just technical skills that for running engineering teams that I don't have. And I would say the business model from a financial perspective was sort of a mess when I walked into, well, there was a lot of low-hanging fruit, let me put it that way, when I got involved in Spotify. And so the partnership worked really well at a personal level and professional. Maybe that's why he said it.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons I'm sure is your innovation around direct listings and how you played such a pivotal role with Spotify in terms of the direct listing. And I spoke to Jeff Jordan at Andreessen as well. I told you, I really stalked you. And I spoke to Jeff and he said, you got to ask about direct listings. Why do you feel direct listings are better? And what do you think you saw that others didn't see about the direct listing model being so good?
Well, there are a couple of things to unpack. As it relates to direct listing, it's a drug that's very effective for addressing, certain kinds of clinical circumstances. But it's not for every occasion and not for every company. Point one. So at Spotify, I was trying to solve a particular problem. I wasn't trying to reinvent the going public thing. I will say, very much to Daniel's credit, I walked in the room and I very intentionally said to him, hey, I have this crazy idea to do something that's never been done before. Now, there are an awful lot of CEOs and boards I know who, if you were foolish enough to say that to them, would go, whoa. And Daniel was like leaning forward in his chair and couldn't wait to hear what the idea was. So, one. Two, when you take a company public, you need to sell enough shares for there to be a liquid market. Mm-hmm. And you dilute the existing shareholders. The typical rule of thumb, you're going to raise sort of 12% of the market cap of the company, 10 to 15, maybe as low as 7, if it's going to trade by appointment in the aftermarket. Okay, so for us, that would have been well north of $1 billion. We already had $1 billion plus, several billion on the, I don't even remember anymore, lots of billions on the balance sheet, and we didn't know what to do with the existing cash. We certainly didn't need any more, and the existing investors had no economic incentive to dilute their ownership interest to raise more cash that we weren't going to use productively. So how do you solve that problem? That's what got me thinking about the direct listing as an alternative. So the question for the lawyers was, the securities lawyers, is, okay, well, how do you go public without actually selling stock? Is there such a thing? How would you do it? And so we ripped off an existing structure, mostly used by companies that are coming out of a bankruptcy proceeding or are being spun out of large public companies, and then used it in a novel way in the IPO market. I think the thing that most people don't understand, even very experienced bankers have to point out, the stock opens in a direct listing exactly the same way it opens in a traditional IPO, which is exactly the way it opens for already traded public companies.
Cass, do you think we will continue to see many more direct listings moving forward?
Well, not in the current capital environment. And that's because public company shares are trading at such a steep discount that the only way you're going to get a company public is if you essentially promise to the institutions who are going to buy the IPO a big pop in first day trading.
And you're not going to get that at these prices.
And that's a traditional offering.